My name's Mark McCurgo. I'm living in Edinburgh. Until quite recently I was living in London, and I'm very delighted to be living in Edinburgh and being a part of the Yes movement. Well, as you can hear, I'm basically English. Actually, my father's family were from Scotland, but I've always been brought up as English.
You know, since the Brexit vote, I've had loads of messages from people in other parts of the UK asking if they can move to Scotland.
I was very, very intrigued by the first referendum. Living in London at the time, I was a Lib Dem member and supporter, but actually independence is on offer for Scotland. Why wouldn't you want that? And it seemed to me, after considering it for a while, that they were actually very, very good. Very broad possibilities for the Scots nation to reclaim its status after 310 years. And the more I thought about it, the more it seemed to me that there is a difference between Scotland and England. In the aftermath of that vote last June, it seemed to me that the SNP were the only ones with a plan at that stage. Very, very inspiring. And so within a matter of weeks, my wife and I decided that it was time for us to make a move, and we've moved to Edinburgh. We've moved our lives, our family, our business to Edinburgh, and we're very excited to be here at this point in the history of the development of Scotland.
A simple yes or no will suffice.
Well, no, I'm afraid a simple yes or no doesn't actually do it, Mr. Chairman.
So I work all over the world and do a lot of work in Europe, and friends and colleagues all over the continent. And I'm very concerned at the moment that not only are we putting out very bad messages as the UK about what we want our relationship to be, but also there's potential damage in terms of trade, in terms of travel, in terms of people moving backwards and forwards. But I'd rather be backing people who are very firm in their commitment to maintaining those connections and links, rather than putting them on the table to bargain and potentially say that no deal is acceptable. I don't think it's acceptable at all. And so I want to do what I can to fight to keep those links with Europe, to keep links with the world, to build on our relationships with other countries, rather than put them at risk in a game of brinkmanship, which is what it seems to me that the Westminster government is intent on doing at the moment.
The UK is about to turn its back on membership of the world's biggest single market. Imagine what will happen if Scotland chooses to stay. We will become a magnet for talent and investment from all across the UK.
I think there are risks to Scotland staying in the UK. This is one of the differences between the upcoming independence conversations and referendum and the first independence referendum. Now we have a position where the United Kingdom is being torn from Europe. Staying in the UK under those circumstances doesn't look good at all. It's a very, very different balance of power and probability than last time. It is, do we see ourselves as a strong, independent nation within a broader European brotherhood? Or are we content to be shackled to a United Kingdom that's prepared to risk so much to gain so little? The first Indie Ref looked very exciting from my position in London last time, and it seemed to me that this was not a narrow political movement. This was a broad church and a whole spread of people coming together to look at the benefits that an independent Scotland could have. And so I found it was very inspiring. This is the country that brought the Enlightenment to Europe and the world in the 18th century. And it's important that we remember that and we take that forward in these times of fake news and half-truths. The Scottish Enlightenment showed the way forward 300 years ago, and it can do it again. And the value that people put on Burns and his sentiments and his words is another indication about how this is a country with a very profound interest in social justice and inclusion. My wife actually grew up in Scotland, then went on to Glasgow University to read economics. And she's always told me about the value that Scots put on education and how the Scots' view of education is kind of different to the English one. And the more I've read around it and the more I've experienced, the more I think that's right.
So let me issue this open invitation today. Scotland isn't full up. If you are as appalled as we are at the path this Westminster government is taking, come and join us.
I'm very delighted to be here, and I'd encourage anyone else with commitments in those directions to think about coming to join us. I think there's going to be some very interesting times ahead, and we need support. People are welcome in Scotland, there's absolutely no doubt about that. I've been made so welcome since moving here. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. I will be voting yes, absolutely.